Hi everybody, it's Ros here. Very warm welcome. Today what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about how we regularly try and deal with our unpleasant emotions. And it's just part of being a human, is that we will experience unpleasant emotions, whether that be feeling angry about something, irritable, frustrated, guilty, jealous, whatever the emotion is. And we also experience physical pain as well. Again, it's part of being human. We can't live this life without experiencing some kind of pain. I guess we could call it suffering. So what many of us tend to do when we experience these uncomfortable sensations is that we probably tend to do one of two things. Firstly, we may try and fight against that emotion because we don't want to feel it because it's not very pleasant. So we fight against it, we're trying to push it away. Or what we might do is actually feel like we're drowning in it, and the only thing that we can possibly pay attention to, we feel, in our field of awareness is this one situation that's happening, and the physical sensation of the emotion. We actually feel like we are actually drowning. And both of these ways of managing emotions, so either blocking or drowning, actually are forms of resistance. So what we're doing is we're saying, I don't want to know. I just don't want to have anything to do with these emotions. It's far too difficult for me. And I don't like it. And we see unpleasant emotions as negative in some ways, bad. Often it's about how we've been raised. It's very much a generational thing. So neither of these ways of managing our emotions that are difficult for us and physical pain actually works. What we can end up doing is making ourselves feel a lot worse. And so there's really useful, some of you may be aware of this already, but there's a really useful analogy or parable that can be quite helpful for us to understand our relationship with our emotions. And if you imagine that the first arrow, it's the parable of the two arrows, the first arrow that hits you in the heart often is the arrow of our reality, of something really happening to us in our reality. So it might be simply that somebody said something hurtful to us, or we've lost our phone, or we've made a mistake at work, or gosh, we could go on and on. But that's the first arrow. It actually has happened in our reality. Now, what we tend to do, instead of tending to the wound from the first arrow, what we tend to do instead is find another arrow, and we stab ourselves with that second arrow, and we stab ourselves right where the original wound is. And it's that second arrow that is considered to be far harder to manage than the first one. And that second arrow is when we start to resist the physical sensation of the original pain, and we resist it by going off into our heads and engaging in thoughts and scripts about what's happened. So for example, if somebody said something unkind to me, that would be the first arrow. And instead of me tending to that perhaps sense of sadness, which would maybe be a heavy sensation, it's all about sensation, what I might do instead is ignore this because I don't like it, and just go off into my head, scripts and stories about what happened. Why did they say that? I'm such a bad person, it must be true. Or I get defensive and I might shout back at them and be very reactive. And then in the afternoon or the following day, I might still be going over and over and over, ruminating, catastrophizing about what happened and what this person said. And all that does is it fuels the unpleasant sensation of sadness or perhaps anger arises, and it just makes it worse and makes it last for longer. And it is estimated that around 10% of the difficulties that we experience are felt in the first arrow. The rest, around 90%, is as a result of the second arrow, of what we tend to do to ourselves. Okay, and what mindfulness practice helps us to do is to realise that this is just a habit. It's not that anything's wrong with us, this is just what we habitually do. Often we've learned that's how to manage emotions, but it doesn't actually work at all. It can help us to feel a lot worse. Our behaviour can be really quite reactive. Then we can regret how we've reacted and we're off again on another snowballing effect. So it's this resistance that mindfulness can really help us to reduce. And instead of resisting, what we're starting to do is notice and allow and accept. So instead of hardening against the emotion or fighting against it or resisting against it, what we're going to do with the practice in a minute is, and it is just a practice, because many of us are not used to this, I certainly wasn't, is to begin to notice, what does this physical sensation actually feel like? There's a tightness here, or a heaviness, or a clenching, or maybe some kind of pain in the shoulder. Maybe it's a stabby pain. And what we're going to see if we can do is practice softening around this sensation rather than hardening. And we're going to practice soothing around it rather than fighting, and also allowing it to be there because it is, rather than resisting. Okay. So the remedy for the arrows is acceptance and allowing. Soften, soothe, allow. Okay. So I'm going to guide you through a practice now. And I'll begin the practice by inviting you to engage in just a period of settling the mind and settling the body, and then we'll move into softening, soothing and allowing any kind of physical sensation that you may notice that perhaps feels a bit uncomfortable for you. If at any time when you're practicing this you feel like, yeah, that's enough of that, that's fine. Just take your attention back to the breath and be with the body. Okay, so just do what feels right for you in this practice. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you're all sitting. Of course, you can lie down if you want to. And seeing if you can take your awareness to your posture and allow it to sit in an upright position. So with a straight spine, but also being comfortable at the same time. And with your feet flat on the floor, if you're sitting on a chair, your hands just resting in your lap. And closing your eyes if you want to, or just lowering your gaze. I'm going to start and end the practice with the chime of the bell. So beginning this practice by taking your awareness to the breath. Noticing the movement of the body as you breathe. Perhaps you can sense and feel a gentle rise and fall in the tummy area, maybe in the chest. Maybe you notice a wider awareness as the whole of the torso just gently rises with the in-breath. That sense of the rib cage expanding as the lungs fill. And then that sense of falling away with the out-breath. And just beginning to allow the breath to be a little deeper as you breathe in. And a little longer as you breathe out. Not forcing it in any way. So giving your mind something else to do rather than engaging in the thinking, getting caught up in storylines and scripts. What we're doing is inviting the mind to settle and just sensing and feeling the body moving as it breathes a little deeper. And you can include counting if that helps as an additional anchor. Counting up to 2 or 3 for the in-breath and a similar count for the out-breath. And sometimes people find it helps to place a hand on their tummy or their chest. So you can actually feel the hand gently rising and falling as the body breathes. Just paying a little more attention now to the out-breath. And perhaps noticing that when the body breathes out, it also softens and relaxes a little. That sense of letting go. Softening the body. And allowing the breathing now to return to its natural rhythm. So letting go of any counting. And just having a light, relaxed awareness on the breath. And at the same time, being able to sense and feel the body sitting in the chair, the ground supporting the body. And just noticing how the body feels. Sensing the contact that the body's making with the feet on the floor, on the seat of the chair. Sensing the hands resting in the lap. And just noticing if your attention is being drawn towards the physical sensation in the body, usually around the tummy, the chest area, the neck. Maybe feels a little uncomfortable or unpleasant. People often describe noticing the sensation of perhaps tightness somewhere, or heaviness, or a clenching feeling. Maybe you notice more of a physical sensation of pain in the body somewhere. And just seeing whether you can allow your awareness to settle just very gently in that area. So acknowledging the sensation. What does it feel like? Name it. And seeing if you can soften around it. Just imagine that you're softening around that physical sensation. So you're allowing it to be there rather than fighting against it, resisting it, or hardening against it. How does it feel different to actually soften around it? Allow it to be there, just as it is. Perhaps with a sense of curiosity. Maybe allowing the area of tension or pain or difficulty to feel like it's being softened with each out-breath. So we're not trying to get rid of it. Have a different attitude towards it, one of kindness and allowing. Softening. Maybe even just say very quietly to yourself with a soft tone, soften, soften, soften. Now seeing if you can start to develop an attitude of soothing around this difficulty. So you might want to place a hand on the heart area and just really notice that contact of warmth, of kindness, of soothing, soothing yourself. Again, not to get rid of the tension or the pain or the difficulty, but because it's there. And even if you're not connecting with a sense of what soothing means and how that feels, just simply at this stage placing a hand, maybe in the heart area, or the other hand also on the area that feels uncomfortable. And just feeling that contact and warmth is enough. Maybe saying the words soothe, soothe, soothe. Noticing if your mind is wandering off back into thinking, knowing that this is a habit, it's quite normal, there's nothing wrong. When you notice that this happens, just gently guide your awareness back again. Noticing the body sitting in the chair, feeling the breath. And if you choose to return back to feeling and being with in a soothing way the physical pain or tension or difficulty. And then lowering your hand if you want to. And just moving into an attitude of allowing. So rather than fighting against and resisting the sensation, to actually have a sense or an attitude of allowing it to be there because it is there. And you can say to yourself, allow, allow, allow. And again, noticing if you're wandering off into scripts and storylines, bringing your awareness back again to the physical sensations of the body, just as they are, with a light awareness on the breath. Now, if you've not done so already, just taking your awareness back to the breath and beginning to have a wider awareness. So, sensing the whole of the body and realizing that you are far more than this one physical sensation that was perhaps unpleasant. So, sensing the whole body sitting in the chair, feeling the breath. Becoming aware of sound, so a much wider awareness. And then ending the practice when you can no longer hear the sound of the bell. Thank you very much, everybody.